Hi, welcome back to Sticks Plus Twine. My name is Eric. I am coming to you from my home here in Toronto, where I do all kinds of fun knitting and cooking planning and all kinds of fun stuff here in my knitting room. This is episode, I guess, 35, and the theme of this episode is going to be simplify, for a number of reasons. But primarily because it's my word of the year this year, and I thought I would share with you a little bit about what that means for me. And I spoke a little bit in last week's episode about some of the changes that I'm making to kind of help simplify my life. And, after last year's being so incredibly complex, it was kind of overdue to simplify things. So first, let me say that I can be found on Ravelry. I am EPLUTZ there. And on Instagram, which is my preferred platform for interacting with y'all. I said y'all. I'm from Canada. We don't say y'all. But I am e.p.lutz, as in L-U-T-Z, there on Instagram. So, simplifying. First of all, let me simply say thank you so much to everybody for your incredibly kind comments and feedback on my last episode. It was really good to be back, and it was really tough to get back into it. And I'll admit freely that I recorded another podcast last weekend, but I hated it. It was rushed. I felt uncomfortable. It was weird. And part of what simplifying means to me is to listen to myself and listening to my own sort of inner compass as to what's right for me and what isn't. Anybody who really knows me in real life knows that I have zero problem saying no to people, when it supports my best interests or the best interests of the people around me. But, there's a lot of pressure to succeed here in this world, and especially in the, pretty picture Instagram world, which carries a lot of its own pressures as well. I don't know if you feel that, but I certainly do. But you know what? It's really easy to overcome it. Just say no. No, not into it. So anyway, part of simplifying is I've made the decision that I'm not going to continue with the Ravelry group for this podcast. It's just too darn difficult. It takes too much out of my day when I have a lot of things still on my plate that I need to resolve and address and work and everything else. And I find that working through sort of commentary on Instagram much more immediate and satisfying for me. I hope it is for you too. And also on YouTube. YouTube is actually really, really good for interacting. So going forward, I am not going to be posting anything on Ravelry. If you'd like to friend me there, absolutely by all means. But as anybody who has added me as a friend in the past 8, 9, 10, 12 months will know, I am really bad at interacting on Ravelry. Frankly, my mobile phone is my lifeline, and without a really good interface for it that lets me know when things are happening there, it's just sort of unmanageable. So, in the theme of simplifying, I won't be doing Ravelry groups anymore. Does that mean I'll be doing giveaways and stuff like that? Yeah, probably, but I'll be doing them either through Instagram or I'll do them through YouTube. So, that said, let's see, I'm looking at my notes. What else are we going to talk about? Ooh, we have some fun stuff to talk about today. So, we're going to talk about some future knits, which is where I talk about my sort of conscious acquisition of materials for things that I plan to make in the future. If you missed last month's episode, you'll know that I have veered away from talking about the haul. I like showing a haul. I like seeing other people's hauls, but I have so much in stash that, and it's not a humble brag at all, it's a reality, I have almost too much, that unless I have a project specifically earmarked for a future knit, I don't want to acquire yarn except for that knit. So, the stuff that you'll see going forward, including today, is stuff that I have specific plans for. So we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about, I don't have any FOs this week. I have no faux show, but I do have a hoe show. I have a couple of hoes that I want to share with you. I have a couple of favorite things that I want to talk about, and I have a request for one sort of bit of commentary from you guys to see what you like, what your favorite thing is. And I'm going to talk about Nosh. She'll talk a little bit about what I'm cooking these days. And finally, a little bit of realness at the end, because it wouldn't be me and it wouldn't be Sticks plus Twine if there wasn't some realness. So let's get into it. So today, I am drinking LaCroix. Yes, LaCroix. I actually had a Mrs. LaCroix as an English teacher once. This one is pink grapefruit. I blame Sandy by the Lakeside podcast and her own shop, where she makes amazing bags, and I've got some to show you about that a little bit later. Let's talk first of all about future knits. So, last weekend, I did a little bit of a road trip with my wonderful friends Ramona and Sandy, where we went up to visit Emily Foden, Viola and the Moon Yarns, who had an open day at her studio in Mooresburg, Ontario, which, for those of you who don't know, and trust me, not a lot of people know where it is, I had to look it up, is about a half hour, maybe 35 minutes from Owen Sound in Ontario, so it's sort of northwest of Toronto. It's about a 2.5 hour drive. It was a beautiful drive for about the first half, and then I got cloudy and rainy, but that's okay, I didn't mind. I was quite comfortable in my car driving, and we just talked the entire time. Ramona got a lot of knitting done, and it was just a blast. We had a great time. Then we got up to see Emily, and it was, oh my god, her place. I've already told Emily that come like January, when it's like snowy and kind of a Saturday, she should expect a phone call, like, put on the kettle, I'll be there in 3 hours, because I've got 4-wheel drive and I need to go and see her amazing place in winter. But we weren't just there for, how do we say this politely without getting an R rating? Poops and poops and giggles. We went actually because she dyed a huge amount of yarn for both the open house, but also she's got a shop update coming later this week where some of her yarns are being discontinued, and they happen to be some of my favorite bases, so I was on a mission for specific things. Except I will say I broke my one rule a little bit, but we'll talk about that. First of all, let's talk about this. Oh, the lighting is better today. Last week when I recorded, the lighting was terrible, but today seems to be better. So this, I would like it to focus. It is not going to focus. There, well, maybe a little bit. Anyway, this is her MCN base, which, for those of us in the know, is a merino cashmere nylon. It's a worsted weight. It is 200 yards. It is called Grey Sea Storm, and I have plans to make a hat out of this. I have a whole bunch of one skein hat sort of projects, and I think the one I'm going to make with this is called Bough by Jared Flood for Brooklyn Tweed. And the requested put up for the hat is more than what this is, but I think that includes the pom-pom, and I don't like pom-poms on my hats. I'm not a pom-pom guy. I might one day do a faux fur one at some point, but pom-poms are not me. They're just not me. So to do a one skein beanie out of this, no problem. So I think that's what I'm going to make this into. I love it. It's got, if you don't know Emily's yarns, it's really hard to see them online. It doesn't do it any justice. You kind of have to see them in person. So if you get a chance, go and see her yarns in person. So I bought that one because it had to be had. I also, for a project that I have planned, which is the Rivulet wrap by Shannon Cook. It was released as part of the latest collection, the Wool People collection from Brooklyn Tweed. And my friend Patricia of Paradise Island, who also has a podcast you should check out, did one of the preview knitting projects for it, and it's amazing. I've seen it in person. It's great. I will throw a picture up over here, and I picked up this delicious BFL. I am a huge fan of BFL. There's something about its durability I really like. It's slightly rustic, but it blocks out beautifully. This is her 4-ply BFL, 100% untreated Blueface Leicester, and this is the Midnight color. And it's going to be amazing because obviously Rivulet being a water reference, and although this is called Midnight, it's a very watery color, so I love it. I even like the little bit of a halo it gets. Again, if you have not seen Emily's yarns, you have to. You just have to. If you are in the Toronto area, Emily does come quite often, I think once a season, to the Toronto Knitters Guild, and almost immediately sells out, it feels like. So that's another place that you might be able to find her, but check her website. It's violaandthemoon.com, I think. I'll put a little thing here. Anyway, gotta love it. And it was actually on sale because it was a discontinued base, as was that one. So I didn't stop just there, because you don't drive 2.5 hours each way for, 3 skeins of yarn. Ramona did pretty well, and Sandy did pretty well. If you haven't seen, I think Sandy's new episode launched today, so I'm only halfway through watching it, so I haven't seen if she's talked about her acquisitions yet, but I hope she did. And you can see some more stuff that Emily did. But I also picked up 3 of her sock minis, which are not colors I would ever typically pick for me. But I picked them up because I really wanted to do, I've got some plainer sock yarns that I want to obviously knit up over the winter, and I really wanted these sort of to mix and match some heels, cuffs, toes kind of thing. These are all 20-gram skeins, so for me, I need about maybe 6 grams to do heels, cuffs, toes for a pair for me. No, maybe a little bit more. I have to measure it. I'll measure it someday. But I figure I've got 60 here, so if I need 6, that means I can do 10 socks, or 10 pairs of socks, so I've got plenty to do little bits and pieces, and I'll mix and match these, so I won't have all just, a pink cuff. I'll have like a pink cuff, a yellow toe, and a blue heel. Or I'll do, just these 2, or I can do these 2, I'll just mix and match. But her sock base is not going anywhere, so that one you'll still be able to get. I love her sock base. So, that was last weekend. I'm going to take you back in time and previous couple of weeks to, in a minute, we're going to put that on pause. I'm going to tell you about something else first. I was so lucky to be selected by the great folks at Woolfolk to sample some of their newest yarn that they just launched. And it launched this week, and it is called Flette, which is, and this is the sample of it, it is a textured DK weight yarn, and it's blowing out a little bit on one end. But it's actually, that's actually pretty close to the color, so let's go with that. That's the color there. It is their Ultimate Merino, and it is DK weight, so that comes with, it's, 135, 150 yards. You can look it up online. But it's really cool. It's almost like a chenille, it feels like, but it's all natural, textured. It's, I guess they call it like it's not really a chain yarn, it's more of a braided yarn. So when they sent this to me, I wasn't sure what the heck I was going to do with it. Like, I don't know, I love it, but what am I going to do with it? And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a Mawson hat with this, which is a simple ribbed hat pattern by Jared Flood. They do have a hat pattern out for this specifically, but it's another $8 US, which translates to almost $10 when it's really, really similar to the Mawson pattern. So that's what I'm going to make out of this. Mawson was originally released when they released their Marls shelter base, but they've also redesigned it and added an update to the pattern for DK weight for Arbor. So I'm going to go with that. If you haven't seen what it looks like, check them out. I think it's on their website. They've got a whole new collection they just launched as well. There's some really cool stuff. There's an amazing sweater for men that I would love to make, but I can only imagine what that would cost out of this. Like, this stuff is as soft as cashmere, and it's as expensive as cashmere, I think. Well, maybe not quite as much, but anyway, it's lovely. I haven't had a chance to swatch with it or test it yet because of the next project that I'm going to show you, but oh, I love this. It's really, really nice. I just kind of want to, just so you know, I have next to me is my yarn baby. This is my Jill Draper Make Stuff Empire skein that lives on my coffee table that's here in the knitting room, and it just sits out there and looks, you know, pretty. This might actually join it. That might just have to sit there for now. So, I do have some more acquisitions. So, as I was saying previously, I guess it was at the end of July, the Knit Cafe here in Toronto did its summer sale, where pretty much everything in the shop, I think, was 20% off or better, which includes Brooklyn Tweed. Now, we all know Brooklyn Tweed never goes on sale anywhere. So, as much as I needed absolutely no yarn, I had a couple of sweaters in queue that I knew I would love to make in Brooklyn Tweed, but I was a little bit loath to pay the high price for them. So, when it was on sale, I rocked up before they opened, waited, got in there first thing in line, and Kristen, who is one of the proprietresses of the Knit Cafe, I know her pretty well. I've actually taken her sock knitting class. That's how I learned to knit socks. And it's funny, it's right, like, I'm literally in between between Spin Me a Yarn and Etobicoke and the Knit Cafe on Roncesvalles in Toronto, if you're in the neighborhood. I'm kind of like right in the middle, so it's really convenient to get to both, which is nice. Anyway, so I walked up to Kristen and said, Kristen, I have a shopping list, I need your help. So I picked up some stuff for Ramona that I knew that she would really like. And then I picked up 2 sweaters quantities, which for a guy my size, you know, I'm not like 800 pounds, but, you know, we're not talking like, you know, I can do a 3 skein fingering weight sweater. No, we're talking 8 skeins for me of loft, which is about 6 skeins of, I guess, a regular fingering weight put up. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. What you're interested in is, what am I making with it? Well, I actually have a sweater on the go with some of it, but first I'll show you the one that I have planned, which is the Albion Pullover, which is a Guernsey pattern by Michele Wang for Brooklyn Tweed. Came out quite a while ago, but I loved it. I've always loved that. And I have chosen to make that out of this wood smoke shelter. Or sorry, storm cloud. I always want to call it wood smoke. Storm cloud. I wanted wood smoke, but I didn't have enough. So this one is a very warm gray. It's got, I think it's going to show up really good. It looks really like a natural, but I'm sure it's not a natural. I'm sure it's dyed, but it's lovely. This is going to feel really, really nice to work with, and I needed a lot of it, so that was a really good bargain to get that on sale. So the second sweater that I bought this sweater's quantity for is the Redford by Julie Hoover. And originally I had bought the Quince & Co. Finch base in honey to do that in. And I, at the time, was still pretty much a baby knitter. I think I'd bitten off a little more than I could chew at the time. So I decided to not proceed with that one. And that started turning into my Leaves of Grass shawl by Jared Flette as well. That is still sitting in this orange, lovely French field bag that one day will be finished. When I feel like knitting lace, because I'm at a very lacy portion and I don't feel like it lately. I just want something simple. Hence the theme, simplify. I should do a little thing there. Simplify. No. So, I did buy another sweaters quantity, and this one I'm actually making some really good progress on. It is the Redford pattern, as I mentioned. It is entirely a stockinette sweater, and I have finished 2 panels. This is the back panel. The colorway, you're not going to be able to see the whole thing because it's quite large. And it really, oh, sorry, I got Fluffy BFL up my nose. Maybe that should be the title, Fluffy BFL up my nose. Oh, sorry. Oh, itchy nose. So this is the faded quilt colorway and I'm hoping, although you can't see me, I'm hoping that's forcing it to focus. This color is lovely. It is a gray-blue color, and, you know, I will say that Loft on its own, before it is blocked, feels okay, feels alright, but it transforms once it's blocked into something really lovely. Now, I did my gauge swatch. So here's another little tip. If I've bought the right sweaters quantity for a project, and I know it's the same base that I'm going to be using on another project, I don't swatch in the color for which I have actually bought for my project. I swatch in a different color. You know, I don't know whether that's right or wrong, but I'll kind of say this. I always end up with like those little like half or quarter skeins, you know, just enough to do basically a swatch in. And when you're working with a commercial yarn that's not a hand spun or something that you know is quite variable, I figure there's nothing wrong with swatching in the same base in a different color. So I did. And I'll tell you, it is light as a feather once it gets blocked. Like, this is like, literally, it would just, whew, let's see, float. Well, you know, it floats. It's got some good drape to it, but it's got a good structure, so I know I'm going to love this sweater. So I finished the back panel. I've also finished the side panel, and I'm showing you the reverse stockinette side because that's actually the public side for the side panels. That goes, you do two of these and it looks a bit funky at the top because that's your underarm hole, so it will go up over here. So I've got those two pieces done already, and I decided that I'm going to actually start this, I'm going to go sort of in the round. So I've done the back, I've done the side, and now I am working on a sleeve, ta-da, which all of these pieces are knit flat. There is no knitting in the round until you get to the cuffs, which you do the cuffs as a pickup piece, which worried me a little bit because as I was doing this, I was like, that's not going to be long enough. There's no way. It's too big. And then I remembered, oh yeah, you're going to add like that much ribbing on the end, so it'll be fine because it'll be more like, it'll be sitting more like here. So I'm already well past the elbow, technically, on this piece. Anyway, that is a wonderful project. I'm so thrilled with it. I'm really, really, really happy with working on it. And it is living in my By the Lakeside bag by Sandy Ran, also known as Sandy by the Lakeside, which I'm loving her bags. So I've spoken at length about them before, and I will again. So there's that that I'm working on. I talked last time about watermelon socks for Sebastian. Yeah, they haven't seen a stitch on them because I've been obsessed with this sweater. So yeah, that I really got to get back on so we can have them this summer. So he's got that. I also finished the first panel of my starting point wrap by Locatelli. And last time I recorded, I think I was somewhere around here. But I finished, there's sort of a twisted rib portion. This portion in the green this is actually a lacy part in the pattern, but he thankfully gives a alternate, which is just a double seed stitch if you're a guy or if you just don't want to do lace, and I opted not to do the lace. I did do the eyelet section at the top with the BFL, because I think BFL can be really, really warm, and I thought having a little bit of ventilation there would be helpful. So I decided to go with that instead of, that is part of the pattern. But anyway, so you do this whole big piece, and that's not blocked, that's just kind of as it is. And then you do another one exactly like this, and then you knit the sort of center sections to join it. But I wanted something a little plainer for a bit, which is why the sweater was really handy. While I'm talking about this, oh God, I just love those colors together. Okay, so I was going to tell you just a little, I don't know, it's not really a tip. It's an encouragement to simplify things. What I do is, after I finish about 2 or 3 color changes, I go in and weave in the ends and cut them to about 1 inch in length, a couple of centimeters that I leave for after blocking. Because if you don't, you end up with this kind of schlemazel all of this fringy stuff, which when I'm working on bigger projects can get really annoying, and frankly I like to get rid of them. So every second, I left a couple here because I wanted to show you, but every sort of couple of color changes, I'll go in, weave in the ends, and then when you're finished the project, all you gotta do is block it, pin it out, use wires, whatever you're gonna do. I'm showing you the wrong side. Do that, and then here, let's flip all that back. There we go. And then once you've done all that, you just have to clip off like a bunch of little ends and you're finished. Because if you wait till the very end on a project like this, you're looking at probably about 100, 120 ends to weave in. Nobody wants that. So, that is a good project in progress. And, I think that's it for ones I'm working on currently. That's it. That's it for projects in progress. That's all. So it's time for some favorite things. And I guess there's sort of a bit of a rhyme and reason to the order of this that probably won't make sense to anybody but me, but I'm just going to go with it. The first thing that I'm going to share with you is one of my favorite things is a podcast that last year when things were a little bit chaotic and crazy, and with my mom passing away and everything else, one of the things I found really, really calming was a new YouTube channel that I really enjoyed and still do enjoy, which is the Christopher Allen podcast channel, YouTube channel. It's YouTube channel. But he does a lot of vlogging, a lot of lifestyle, some travel stuff, a lot of planning, which I'm a huge devotee of my Hobonichi planner. I love that. I also do a lot of planning online using different mobile tools, but that's a whole other YouTube podcast. But I really, really enjoyed, and one of the things that Christopher has also struggled with is sort of weight issues and things, and he is a huge fan of going to Orange Theory. So my second favorite thing now is my Orange Theory membership, because it's super, super simple. It's really, really easy. Mentally, it's really easy. Physically, it's very tough. But basically, if you're not aware of what Orange Theory is, it's a chain of exercise gyms, basically, that's all based around high-intensity interval training. And you go in for an hour, the coaches tell you what to do, how to do it, what weight to use. You don't have to think, you just do. You work to your own pace. Everything is heart rate monitored. And yeah, it's great. I did mine yesterday, and I still have a hard time getting up out of a chair because my legs are so sore. But I really enjoy it. But that, I'm kind of focusing on that because over the last year being so much of a challenge, all I wanted to do was comfort myself with food and lots of knitting, obviously. And no exercise, living in a place I didn't like before we moved here, challenges with everything else. Anyway, watch last week's episode if you want more of a sob story. But I'm sort of back into taking care of myself, and that also means that I have started a new diet, which is, I started on keto this week, which I'm not going to debate keto here on this channel. I'm not going to talk about it because that's not what you're here for, although I could if I wanted to, right? My channel, my rules. But I feel like there's enough out there if you're interested. Just go out and check on YouTube for keto. But I do want to share with you one of my new favorite things, which is this book. This is what I picked up this week. The Complete Ketogenic Diet for Beginners, which is really good. It spells it out. It's pretty straightforward. It doesn't talk a lot about the science behind it. Oh, BFL up my nose again. But what it does do is it gives you a good basic sort of bunch of recipes and meal plans, shopping lists, stuff like that. And yeah, so today is day 5. I have a bit of a headache. I don't feel bad for energy, but I've had a headache low grade for about the last 2-3 days, which is to be expected. There's this thing called the keto flu that you supposedly go through, and yeah, you feel a bit like lethargic and a bit for a couple of days, and then all of a sudden, like once you get through that sort of adaptation stage, you feel a lot better. So there you go. So I'm on keto, and I'm going to Orange Theory, and although Christopher is not on keto, not as far as I know. I think he's been doing vegan for a while instead. I've been inspired, and here we go. So we'll see where this leads. I have two last things that I want to share as my favorite things, and both of them were from my wonderful friend Sandy. I told you she'd come back up in this podcast. The first one, she told me about this book, and I actually got really inspired to buy it. So with my wonderful Amazon 24-hour ordering, picked it up. This is Slow by Brooke McAlary, which is, the subtitle is Simple Living for a Frantic World. Again, theme of today's show is simplify. And it really is about her quest and her family's quest for simplifying their life, feeling a lot less pressure, how to free yourself from the frantic. I mean, who doesn't want that, right? But as opposed to, I mean, I love Marie Kondo. I love me some KonMari method of organizing and cleaning, but it's not for everybody. And I live with somebody who is not as, I don't want to say disciplined. He's more interested in, I guess, acquiring for future. You know, the amount of hotel shampoo bars and bottles and stuff we have is because he believes in keeping it for future, which is fine. That's his take. Mine is not that way. So to sort of feel a way, you know, this is sort of like, there's the minimalist movement, which I really, really enjoy, and that started my sort of simplification journey. But when you're not both in it, all in, there's just no way. And as you can see from my background, simplification does not necessarily mean minimalist for me. So what I really like is this book doesn't give you license or permission to do it your own way, but it kind of does, finding your own way. So I enjoyed that. But what I also picked up at the same time is Destination Simple. These are everyday rituals for a slower life, written by the same author. And just little things to do, like exercise, 5 to 10 minute exercise on emptying your mind, how to do that. So that's sort of a meditation. She's got what she calls rhythms, which is establishing rhythms for your morning. So it's not a routine, but it's just sort of something that you do, this sort of gentler version of that, which I kind of like, because not all of us have rigid schedules with do this by 6:05, do this by 6:30, do this by 7:22, like. And that's not what I want, but I did want to simplify my life and slow it down a little bit. So there you go. She's the creator of the #1 iTunes health podcast, Slow Your Home, in case you're interested. It actually is kind of cool. She's doing a book tour in the US right now for this book, so if you're so lucky and want to pick it up, then that's where she is. The last thing I wanted to show you is, again, this is the second thing from Sandy. This is, yes, one of her new tote bags. The absolute benefit of having friends who are makers is they will help you acquire things if you ask nicely. And Sandy, bless her, has never really said no to me. So when I saw she was doing an update with these, I said, oh, please, Sandy, I have to have one. I need to complete my collection. Well, there's a few more things I need to complete my collection of by the Lakeside bags. I kind of have, I feel like almost all of them. I need a pouch though, and she knows that. But that's neither here nor there. Anyway, that is her new tote bag. You've probably seen it. If you follow Sandy on Instagram, you've seen them. What I really like about it is that the top is narrower than the bottom. So it's easy to get all kinds of stuff in, but stuff doesn't fall out like a normal tote bag does. The bottom is obviously squared off, as opposed to being just flat, so you can put a bit more in it. It's kind of the perfect tote bag. Sandy, thank you. This is lovely. I use it all the time. It's empty at the moment because I had my whips in it, and I use it to sort of tote things between the living room and the bedroom for when I'm working on projects. So, wow, that's been a lot to cover, and yet there's more. We're going to come back in a second. We're going to talk about some realness. So you know it wouldn't be a Sticks plus Twine episode without a little bit of realness. Two things I want to talk about today. One, what is it with all these Instagram bots stealing pictures all over the place? Holy crap. I don't know about you guys, but I'm really getting sick of it. I'm not sick of the makers and the other knitters in the community who are identifying them, because we've identified there's a problem. But what I'm really sick of it are these crappy people deciding to steal all of these people's pictures and giving credit. Well, that's not the way that's done. And I don't know about you, but I've reported them so many times, and Instagram comes back and says, oh no, don't know what you're talking about, don't know what you're talking about. And you know what, that's a way to lose a community, which really pisses me off. Have you guys had any success with reporting this stuff? If you don't know what I'm talking about, the two people that I know for sure that I've spoken with specifically about it, three people actually, but two I'll mention, are Chelsea of Legacy Knits. Chelsea and I had quite the conversation about it. She's just as livid as I am. And Louise Tilbrook as well. And Louise Tilbrook, who was one of the designers in the second issue of Rib magazine, she's got a lovely story feed and Instagram feed. And it seems like every morning she's like, yep, there's another whole crop to report. So she actually came up with this hashtag called hashtag I'm a real knitter. To help identify if you are a real knitter. If you're reposting somebody's work, not only give credit for it, for who it was or whose picture you're borrowing, but tell people that you're a real knitter, right? Like, I don't mind if somebody says, oh my god, I was really inspired by something that I did, which doesn't happen, but if you were, have at it. But give me credit. Don't just, it's not some kind of byline and follow me for likes. No, that's crap, and I've had enough of it. A lot of people have. Because what ends up happening is a lot of us are just going to say, well, forget it. I'm just going to go private on everything. And if you don't know me, then you're never going to see anything. And that kind of defeats the purpose. So anyway, rant number 1, report the bots, block them if you can, and let other people know if you see pictures being stolen. That's what I got to say about that. Number 2 rant is, and I'll tell you, last week when I recorded this podcast, it was a little too fresh and I was a little too frustrated, and it's one of the reasons why I did not upload that one, because I was a little too strident, I think, in my beliefs, and I wanted to be a bit more open-minded and talk about sort of the factual impact. And what I'm talking about is this seeming amount of hostility and divisiveness in not just our community but generally around people's differing political opinions. Like Isabel from Fluffy Fibers, if you haven't seen her post recently about it, did a great job of talking about standing up for her own beliefs and standing up for other people when they're being attacked. And I believe wholeheartedly in that. And that's not to say that anybody else who holds a differing opinion is wrong. And what I'm talking about specifically was Isolde Teague and her family being attacked for attending a political demonstration. And you know what? That's her choice. You know what? You don't control her. You can't. Your voice doesn't get to have a greater say than she does. And if you don't agree with her, fine, don't agree with her. If you don't want to shop at her shop, don't shop at her shop. But there's no need for a lot of this nasty ad hominem attack. And I had to look that up because I'm not that smart. And that's basically a personal attack. Why are you attacking a person's character for something that they choose to do? You know, like, there are certain things that I hold as very right and wrong in this world, and attacking somebody for just being who they are is not actually kosher in my world. If you choose to have a debate with somebody based on fact as opposed to opinion, that's what a debate is about. If you want to hold a subjective opinion that is contrary to someone else's, that's also your right. I think you may be wrong some of the times, and I certainly have been known to be wrong, believe it or not. All I really want to say is, remember that on the other side of social media, whether you believe it or not, there are real people with real feelings, and real feelings can get not only hurt, but when we get hurt, we lash back, and that's what happens, you know, and that's what starts to splinter community. And what causes all of this is so much of this divisive rhetoric that's out there. Whatever happened to compassion and understanding? You know, I don't know what happened to it. It kind of seems to have evaporated lately. So, you know what, I kind of want to just say, you know, bring kindness back, right? And my mom, God rest her soul, always told me if you don't have something nice to say about somebody, don't say anything at all. I don't always listen to that because I have a big mouth. But you know what? Weren't we all kind of taught that? Treat other people like you would like to be treated. Telling somebody that they're all kinds of nasty words because they choose to demonstrate their political beliefs. Okay. Did it hurt you? No. Did it piss you off? Maybe. But you know what? Get over it. You've got your beliefs that I'm sure piss other people off. So suck it up, buttercup. People are going to have differing opinions than you. If you want to change opinions, you don't do it through attacking people. Simple as that. So, end of rant number 2. What else do I have to say today? Not much. It's a long weekend here. It's hot and humid out, which means I'm inside because I hate humidity. And it seems to be worse by the lake. I thought it would be a little bit nicer, but it's not. I plan on going for a bit of a walk a little bit later to sort of get my legs, you know, so they're not quite so strained. Yesterday was a very strenuous leg day at Orange Theory. So, yeah, I'll do that. I'll cook some dinner. Sebastian's away in Germany till tomorrow. I have a fun dinner coming up this week that I'm really looking forward to with a lot of knitters that I really, really, really am looking forward to seeing. Other than that, I'm going to keep knitting on my sweater. Anyway, that's it for me for this episode. Hope you're well. Please do comment below if you want to interact. Thumbs up are always great. Thumbs down are kind of stupid, but whatever. If you want to, go for it. Have at it. It doesn't bother me. You know what? Your opinion. I have mine. So there you go. That's it for this week, and I will speak with you real soon. Bye-bye.